So a couple of days ago I took you round the crops on our farm just to give you a summary of where we are, and today I'm going to show you the sheep. But before I do that, I just want to show you this diverse clover lay that we sowed last spring in some spring barley, and this is a mixture of 50% red clover and the rest is split up between crimson, Persian, Burswood trefoil, some sainfoin and some chicory. And this is really for pollinators to begin with. We let flowers. We let flower once in the autumn and once in the springtime, and then we use it later on for fattening lambs when we establish another whole lot of it somewhere else on the farm to fit in with the rotation. But this is going to be in the ground for 2 years. As I say, it was undersown with our sister chameleon last year, and it just looks absolutely wonderful. And so I'm really pleased with that, and I think that's just going to build a lot of fertility, provide a lot of pollen for pollinators, as well as giving us the opportunity to fatten our lambs on it later on in the season. So the first ewes I'm going to show you are, these are ewes, this is their first lambing season, and these are the ones that had lambs quite early, and they've been brought on this new lay. Well, I say new lay, this is a second year lay. So in its second year, so this will be taken up this August, September. So there's a mixture of twins and singles, but as you can see they're looking pretty bonny, as is the lay, which has got a nice bit of clover in there. It's a sort of clover ryegrass mix. Don't think we did put any chicory in this at all. We started putting some deeper tap roots in the lays to help the sheep, some ribgrass and some chicory, really because the sheep, graze the grass so short that there's not a lot of root stuff sort of going underground, which is what we want as well from our 2-year breaks from cropping. So we're doing a bit more of that, but there's nothing in this field here, but I think you'll agree they're looking fantastic. So this is a field of twins. You can see lambs sort of littered all over the place. I'm going to stand still when I'm doing this because it's a bit windy. This is an old airfield. You can see in the distance there our control tower. This was the 487th Bomb Group base, an American air base during the war. And I think if I walk, the wind is going to spoil the sound. I just got a comment from somebody, one of my last clips, where I said we were ploughing less, and how were we going to break our lays? Well, the current thinking is that the sheep actually keep the lays sort of fairly short, as you can see, and so the idea would be to go with a very shallow cultivation to start off with, just to separate the green matter on top of the soil from its roots. And then go for a sort of a more zonal approach with the cultivator, just to first of all just go in there and see what kind of compaction the sheep have left, and then when we've ascertained that, then we would just cultivate down to that level. But the idea of trying to break the lay is to try and just separate the green growth from the top, from its roots, so you're not just turning up huge great big turfs and then pushing turfs around for the rest of the time when you're trying to get a seed bed. So that's going to be our approach as we see it at the moment, but it's a learning curve, but certainly we want to try and preserve all the sort of nutrients in the top zonal layer of the soil where our crop's going to best need it when it starts germinating. So I've just come across this ewe. We've had a lot of problem with foxes this spring. Last year we didn't have any problems at all, and this ewe was guarding this dead lamb. It's just had the head bitten off it by a fox. Yeah, it's sort of always upsetting when a ew's got 2 healthy lambs to come and find this kind of scene in the morning, but it's what we have to deal with, and I've got no qualms about going out and shooting foxes to try to keep their numbers down if we're going to prevent this kind of thing from happening. So I just thought I'd show you this field. This field's a bit of a mess actually. The only thing that isn't messy is these lovely ewes, and this is a field of singles. But in this field we had our first crop of quinoa a couple of harvests ago, and when we took the crop off there were a lot of weeds in it, and we weren't able to establish a lay in it because the clover was so competitive. So we direct drilled some red clover in the field after we took the crop off, and here it is. You can see it in rows. There's a lot of weeds in here, and that's one of the things we're using the sheep for as well, is just to try and graze down some of these messier fields to keep on top of them. You know, things like 1 or 2 thistles, we're going to have to top those with the top at some point. But it's using the sheep really to clean the fields, a bit of clover in there to build some fertility, hopefully for us then to be able to cultivate everything out and then put in a crop afterwards. But this one's going to come out this autumn. So after the slightly depressing fox incident, I've just seen my shepherd, and he says that they've lost about 20 so far this year to foxes. Yeah, after that episode, this is a little creche here for some of the ewes that have had multiples. We've had a very low percentage of them that have had triplets or quads, which obviously makes management a little bit difficult because the sheep only has 2 teats. But some of the ewes have managed to keep 3 lambs going, and they've been given this little area of the field so we can keep an eye on them to make sure they can keep feeding. And the rest of this field is another field of twins. You can see that they're on a really very rich clover lay. I've got a bit of a balance to strike between building fertility for the cropping side of the farm, and also having, you know, enough grass in there for the sheep, not to be too rich for the sheep. One could argue that possibly there's got a bit too much clover in it, but there's no doubt these ewes will do really well on it, and the lambs will finish even better. So I prefer to see the clover than not. Yeah, a slightly happier sight, seeing a whole field of ewes with twins. These are the ewes. These are the ones that have their second crop of lambs. So slightly more experienced than the other ewes that I showed you. But looking fantastic. I mean, the breed, I think, if you watched any of my clips of New Zealand Romneys, we bought them for many reasons. One, because you know, you can buy them from a huge amount of genomic breeding values, which is really handy when you're selecting rams. Also, they've got fantastic feet. We haven't had any problems with feet over the last 3 years that we've had these ewes on the farm, and very few of them have been turned up to look at their feet. Also, really good worm resistance. Obviously, we're on a 2-year lay system, and they don't come back to those fields for at least 4 to 5 years, and so we're in a very sort of low risk situation. But we haven't had a worm problem at all. Do fecal egg counts, and we had to worm the lambs once last year, but nothing else has been wormed. The only downside of the Romney is it is very woolly, and so we're going to be shearing them twice a year. We find them cast quite often, which is dangerous for them. So I think the double shearing should help it. But all in all, the sheep have just become this sort of integral part of the farm. Can't imagine actually our rotation without them. They've been relatively cheap to introduce with electric fencing and sort of movable bowsers, and so it's an enterprise that, you know, anyone with a bit of nerve and determination can set up. But I'm really pleased with it, and just hoping to expand the flock and get it so that we don't have to do any mowing anymore. It's all done by sheep. So last but not least, this is our last field of ewes with singles, and these are also ewes with their second crop of lambs. And the only reason why I'm showing you this is because if you watch the beginning of this clip, it had that diverse clover lay before, as it was just being used as a sort of pollen and nectar mix and building fertility. And this is one of those lays in its second year where we just use them predominantly for the sheep. And as you can see, you know, there's very little grass in it at all. Because it's red clover, we can only put the ewes on here, I believe, when they're about to have their lambs, which is what we did this year, and they've made a good job of grazing it. And soon they'll be moving off this onto something with a bit more grass in it. But as I say, these lays I think will be excellent for finishing lambs on because of all the protein, but we're just going to have to be a little bit careful, you know, in case they are a little bit too hot. But anyway, that's really my sheep morning walk. I hope you enjoyed that little summary of where we are at the moment. I will keep you up to date and post another video when we get nearer to the end of lambing.